Anarchy. This is a concept that humans love to flirt with. That's going on in a big way in the United States right now. And it rears its head over and over again. So I want to talk about it today because there is no anarchy in nature. And humans are a part of nature. So this flirting with anarchy is always a part of our humans against nature energy that has been built into us from misunderstanding how energy works. So you kind of have two camps on the anarchy. One is people who on a gut level get that that's not the answer, but they can't really intellectually express why. And you get the people who think that it may be the answer, or who are completely convinced that it's the answer. And so they either are okay with other people trying it, or they do it themselves. They attempt it themselves. I wanted to just step back and look at nature for a minute. So there is literally no anarchy in nature. Nature is about creating flow systems for energy. Everything is energy flow systems. Trees, oceans, rivers, humans, herds of animals, individual animals. Everything is a system that flows energy and passes energy back and forth and turns the energy of the earth. And in order for energy to flow, there has to be hierarchies. There has to be channels for it to flow through, which means it's not flowing at the same rate everywhere all the time, because that isn't really, that doesn't allow work to happen until you channel it. So the staticness of the hierarchy system, of the flow system, really depends on the type of living thing that you're talking about and really how much it moves. So a tree is stationary. It sways in the wind, but it doesn't walk around. It doesn't move around on the earth. So the hierarchy, the flow system in a tree is very set. A tree can change its shape and things like it. It can move a little bit, but mostly it's a very static hierarchy. So like if I were to look at these leaves, I'm just going to pick one. Sorry, tree. Hello, Charlotte. If I were to look at these leaves, we have a hierarchy here. So we have, the main vein, and then we have the veins that branch off of it that are smaller. And the same thing with the trunk of the tree. You have the trunk and then you have the branches. You always have a hierarchy. In a tree, it's very static. If we look at something that is less static in nature, like a river, you see a lot more, you see very much hierarchy, but you see it changing a lot more than a tree. So a river, when it has an obstruction, it can branch. Or when it's beginning from hills, if there's a bigger rain, you'll get more rivulets coming into it. So it can change a lot more dynamically than a tree. But it's a lot less dynamic than social animals. Social animals also have a hierarchy, and the energy behind this, the reason for this, is really because of the predator-prey relationship. So social animals that live in social groups, both the prey and the predator have to have a hierarchy because they are preyed upon or needing to get the animal. And so we need a flow of energy to happen on both sides. And if there is anarchy, if there's no hierarchy of energy, the prey animals they aren't very successful. There can be a temporary, it's not really anarchy, there can be a temporary dispersion to confuse people. But that isn't really anarchy, because there is a first animal that triggered it, and there is a leader animal that ends it, right? So there can be momentary confusion, but it's not the same thing as anarchy. It's not a way of life. And so the prey animals need to be able to, have leadership in their group, which actually gets stronger and better over time as they are hunted. They get better at not being caught. But at the same time, and co-evolving, the predators have a hierarchy. They have leadership, and they also get better at being, hunting. But there's always a hierarchy. It is not dominance. There is, I think this is where people flirt with anarchy, because humans have decided that that social groups in nature operate via dominance, physical dominance, which is not at all how they operate. I'll get to that in a minute. For a lot of us, we go, ugh, I don't like that. I'm not going to be a part of a dominance system. And that's a good feeling to have. You should not be a part of that. You should not willingly partake in physical dominance, thug leadership. So we say, if it's not that, it's got to be anarchy. But that's not at all how nature works. So nature has what I would call dynamic leadership. And the stories that you've heard about wolves and the dominant wolf that controls everything, they're just false. They're just blatantly false. And, they may have been innocent early on when we first started observing wolves, but they were always tainted with this man against nature. They were always viewed through that lens. So the story from the get-go was not, wolves were not being viewed with an open mind. So the story from the get-go was confused. Anyway, nowadays we have plenty of data showing that is just not true. So I term nature's, the social structure of animals as dynamic leadership. And what happens energetically is whoever can flow the most energy in the moment is the leader in the moment. So the hierarchy can shift. The complexity of a social unit is much higher than a tree. So the leadership needs to be able to change rapidly on a moment-to-moment basis. Thank you for the happy birthday. It needs to be able to change, in a split second and to the benefit of the whole group. So whoever can flow the most energy in the moment is the leader in the moment. It's very dynamic in social animals. So just to give an example, if animals are needing more food, like horses travel to find their food, they don't just sit in one place. Wild horses travel. They don't just sit in one place and eat what's in front of them. They travel to find the right food that they need. And so that might be that the leader in that case, when it's time to go get food, is probably a very experienced animal that knows where the salt is, knows where the best minerals are, knows where the highest calories are, whatever is needed, and they'll take the animals to it. Sometimes they need something new, or they ran out of something and they need to find something different. In that case, the most curious animal is the most able to flow the energy in the moment, because animals that are reticent can't create the flow of the herd. So the most curious one will become the leader. When two yearling kids are fighting over the food, or just two animals are fighting, a dominant animal can become the leader and break up the fight. They're like, enough, we don't do this. This is not how we work. So the dominant animal in that moment is the leader. When there's potentially danger, the animal that's naturally a sentinel, the animal that you find at the top of the hill, looking out for looking out for danger, is the leader. It's the one that everybody's kind of got one ear on and one eye on, and whatever that one says is what they're going to do. If they're saying it's okay, they're going to graze. If they're saying, I'm worried, they're going to say, okay, we're waiting for you to tell us what to do next. If they say run, they run. So in that case, that animal is the leader. But in the case of two animals fighting, the natural sentinel has no power. So they're not the leader. So leadership is extremely dynamic in nature, but there is always leadership. There's always, always, always one animal that is in charge energetically in the moment. There is never anarchy. And I would say that you even can't have anarchy. Humans think they can, and they attempt to do it, But even diehard anarchists don't go for longer than 2 or 3 days without a leader emerging, because they cannot flow any energy. They're just stuck. It's all stuck. All the energy is going, where should it go? What should it do? They can't join it and flow it and take any action. So, and in anarchy, in a group of anarchists, usually within a few days, you end up with 2 or 3 warring leaders, because ideologically, they're against everything that creates the flow of energy, so there is no flow, so they're just stuck in fighting. So we need to be okay with hierarchy, but we need to start consciously grasping the concept of what I would call beautiful leadership. Beautiful leadership is grounded. Grounding creates flow. Beautiful leadership is a part of nature, not working against nature. Beautiful leadership is courageous. It's not woo-woo. It's not for good times. Beautiful leadership is for times when there are problems, because beauty is the experience of beauty is the sudden release of energy that was previously stuck. It is the initiation of flow is when we go beautiful. So beauty is for hard times. It's for courageous people. It's tough. And beautiful leadership is where you get your freedom. Hierarchy is what allows the freedom for the group and the individuals within the group to live prosperously, to live safely, because energy can flow, and to live in a happy way. So instead of, when we see, thug leadership, and thug leadership isn't just anarchists, anyone who seeks power over others via either using physical force or threatening physical force or removing things from you, which is essentially physical force, is thug leadership. But it's not thug leadership or anarchy. It's thug leadership and anarchy in the same camp versus beautiful leadership, versus a hierarchical, dynamically changing flow. And we see this everywhere in nature. Everybody does it. And every time humans are successful, they're also doing it. So that's what we need to consciously be doing right now, not anarchy. So I hope that helps people to understand energetically what's going on, so we can have better conversations around this, instead of just gut feelings, like gut feeling it's not going to work, gut feeling it is going to work. Well, let's just talk about how energy flows. And this is the constructal law. It's the design of nature. It's not some weird thing I just came up with. There's tons and tons of science behind this. It's beautiful, beautiful science. I hope that helps. Thank you for listening.